Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into something incredibly profound, and honestly, something almost all of us struggle with at some point: the absolute art of letting go. We're going to unpack a structured practice called the release ritual. And it's a fascinating look at how we can actually achieve healing through conscious physical action. Because let's face it, it's not just about, trying to think positive thoughts. It's about giving our bodies and our minds a tangible physical way to drop emotional weight, mental pressure, and even old identities. So let's walk through exactly how this works step by step so you can really grasp the structure behind this deeply personal experience. So right off the bat, ask yourself, what are you ready to stop carrying? Seriously, just sit with that for a second. We all walk through life accumulating these experiences, and inevitably, some of that stuff is just heavy. They become these silent burdens we lug around everywhere. We carry them into our jobs, our relationships, our quiet moments alone. And this explainer is completely focused on that specific heavy reality. Before we even look at the mechanics of how this ritual works, you really have to acknowledge that there is something in your hands right now, metaphorically speaking, of course, that you are just flat out tired of holding.
All right, let's jump into Section 1, the invisible weight. We need to fully understand the burden before we can drop it.
Because to understand the cure, we first have to really, truly understand the condition. Like, why do we even need a ritual to let go of things in the first place? Well, the burdens we carry are almost always completely invisible to the naked eye. We're talking fear, guilt, emotional pressure, self-doubt, resentment. Actually, take a look at those last few concepts: perfectionism, people-pleasing, and outdated identities. Man, those are heavy. And here's the core philosophy behind the source material we're examining today. Sometimes, healing only begins when the body physically experiences what the heart has been needing. The heart desperately needs permission to let go. When you hold on to these silent pressures, it causes deep, bone-level exhaustion. It literally leads to profound burnout, emotional heaviness, and grief. You are spending massive amounts of internal energy just dragging this invisible weight around every single day.
Moving right along to Section 2, preparing for release. This is where we shift our focus toward healing.
So how do we actually transition from holding to healing? Well, it starts by marking an inner transition with physical grounding. The source outlines a very specific tactile language for this ritual. First, up, you need to choose a quiet, outdoor place, ideally somewhere near soil, water, trees, an open, natural space. And you're going to use a literal physical stone for this practice. I want you to imagine actually doing this right now. You're holding the stone in your hand. You stand completely still for a moment. You take 3 really slow, deliberate breaths. You are feeling the physical weight of that rock. You're feeling its rough texture. You are taking the invisible emotional weight we just talked about, and you're mapping it directly onto this dense physical object in your hand. This is the exact moment you ask yourself that opening question with total, brutal honesty. What am I ready to stop carrying? Okay, Section 3, the act of letting go. This is the active release phase of the ritual. Once your preparation is done, the narrative arc completely shifts. We move from the passive state of holding on to pain right into the active initiation of release. And the core mechanics follow a really clear, pragmatic 4-step guide. Step 1 is naming the burden. Step 2 is feeling it before releasing. Step 3 is the conscious release. And Step 4 is standing in silence. It's incredibly structured, which I absolutely love, because when we're dealing with messy, overwhelming emotions, having a logical structure to follow kind of keeps us anchored. So we're going to walk through each of these steps so you can see exactly how this intentional release unfolds. So Step 1 is all about naming the burden, and Step 2 is about letting yourself feel it. You can do this silently in your head or speak it out loud, but you really need to complete this specific thought. This stone represents. Or you could say, what I've been holding is. Or what has completely exhausted me is. The absolutely crucial point here is to pause. Don't rush it. Notice the emotions bubbling up. Notice your resistance, your attachment, maybe your sadness or your hesitation. And this brilliantly illustrates a deep psychological truth. Sometimes people discover they've carried a certain pain for so long that they literally no longer know who they are without it. The pain has just become their entire identity. So naming it out loud, that starts to separate you from the burden. And then we reach Step 3, the conscious release. This is the climax of the whole ritual. When you are truly ready, you drop the stone gently onto the earth or into the water. Notice the instruction there, gently. You're not aggressively hurling it. It's not this big dramatic scene. It's a conscious choice. And as you release it, you slowly speak this mantra: I honor what this burden taught me, but I no longer need to carry it into my future. Or alternatively, you could say, I release what no longer aligns with who I'm becoming. This isn't about, destroying your past in a fit of rage. It's about a mature, highly intentional uncoupling from the weight of it all. Now let's look at step 4 and see how this builds into arguably the most critical part of the entire process. The instruction is incredibly simple but so powerful. Do nothing. Just for a moment. Stand in total silence. After the rock drops, you simply observe. You observe your breathing. You observe how your body feels. You listen to the sounds around you. And most importantly, you tune into the feeling of emptiness or the lightness that's suddenly left behind. You're taking a deliberate, purposeful pause to notice exactly what remains when that burden is literally no longer in your hands. Which brings us nicely to section 4, the space left behind. Time for reflection and growth. Okay, so the physical stone is gone, but what exactly is happening internally in the immediate aftermath? Well, the source material highly recommends journaling right after to process this totally new internal landscape. You've just created emotional closure, a massive shift from holding to healing, and now you need to dial up your self-awareness about it. Check out these reflection prompts. What did the stone truly represent? What emotions surfaced during the release? What part of me fought back and resisted letting go? And I absolutely love these last two. What new space has now opened up inside me? What identity am I now ready to grow into? Because by answering these questions, you aren't just passively hoping you feel better, you are actively participating in your own growth. Now for some advanced reflection, the source poses a deeply, deeply provocative comparison between suffering and strength. The question you have to ask yourself, and I mean really ask yourself, is this: have I somehow confused suffering with strength? We live in this world that totally glorifies the hustle, the endless grind, and just carrying the weight of the world on our shoulders, right? But what would life actually feel like without that constant emotional carrying? What completely new future becomes possible when you finally stop carrying the past? It is a massive paradigm shift. Dropping the burden isn't a weakness at all. It's actually the ultimate act of strength to be able to stand up and say, I am moving forward. And finally, section 5, redefining the past. Let's look at the final insight. Because look, letting go does not mean amnesia. It doesn't mean that what happened to you didn't matter or wasn't real. I really want to leave you with this powerful insight today. Letting go does not erase the past. It changes your relationship with it. The stone might leave your hand in one split second, but the lasting release is realizing you are totally allowed to move forward without carrying every single pain that once shaped you. You can honor the lessons, leave the heavy stone on the earth, and walk away significantly lighter. So I'll leave you with this one question to ponder today. Once you finally drop that massive weight you've been carrying all this time, what are you going to choose to build in all that newly opened empty space?